Thing on, oh, is that on?
We're saying.
Never mind. He's not.
Okay. I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes longer, see if we pick up a couple of more members.
We'll push that away, it's really echoey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really loud.
Really echoey. Got enough for a vote.
We have enough for a vote, but I would rather have a fuller
We should
contingent.
notify the applicants. that
Yeah, I'll do that.
If it is, it's
Yeah.
5-0, needs unanimous, at least a special permit.
So you didn't hear anything from Henry, huh?
No.
Okay.
I only heard from Hank.
Okay.
I know he's super busy right now.
Yeah.
Henry is. He might be stuck on a job somewhere.
He's been late before. I mean,
Yeah,
makes
it's
it.
not abnormal for him.
Oh, he's probably not coming early because Misty Meadows, he can't sit on it anyhow.
All right,
That's true. Okay, that's
Probably
one.
why he's not rushing to get here.
All right.
that makes sense,
Yeah.
getting a little.
Yeah.
I thought, but
Hey, George.
all right. Well, I guess we'll get underway. Maybe Ed will make it in the next couple of minutes. Welcome to the Wednesday, November 14th, 2018 Planning Board meeting for the town of Chelmsford. As usual, we're being recorded by Chelmsford Telemedia. And if anybody else is in the audience is recording, just let us know. That said, first order of business is a continued public hearing on 24 Misty Meadows. Now, before we get going, we are running one short on this. Henry couldn't sit on this anyway. so-
Anyway, correct. So I believe we're okay to move forward tonight.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. Here tonight on behalf of the Doyles and the Hennessy's for the project at 24 Misty Meadows Road. Last time we were here, we answered a pretty significant amount of questions, and there was some public input regarding the project. And I believe since then, we've had a little bit more back and forth. I know there's some draft decisions for tonight, and we'd like the ability to talk about a couple of the conditions that we're seeing in the draft before us tonight, if the board feels fit. And I was asked at the last hearing to simply write a factual statement based on kind of some of the things I've been talking about related to Misty Meadow Road itself, the easements, the condition, the floodplain, the wetlands. So I've created a letter, short letter here, which just basically summarizes everything I've said about the existing condition of Misty Meadow Road, just for the file, so that there's something on record. So I'd like to submit these.
Yeah, why don't you?
Like I said, it's really a summary of what I've discussed at
Thanks.
a few of the meetings.
There were two.
For the record.
Thank you.
And besides that, I can certainly talk to the conditions that we have concerns with, or I can wait until the board addresses each condition individually tonight. It's up to the board. I'd be happy to speak on the two concerns now, or wait until we're into the decision.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all I have to say, unless, would you like me to talk about the two questions we have about the conditions now, or you want me to
Yeah,
wait till you get to them?
I'll tell you what, why don't you bring them up now? We may discuss them again a little bit later because this is the public hearing is still going on. I want to open it up.
So there's two concerns that I have with the definitive subdivision certificate of approval and the special permit certificate of approval. One relates to the timing of the proposed development. It's typical. I hear from Evan, it's been a long time since a conventional subdivision was approved, that a 24-month timeline be put on the road. The 24-month timeline for the road to be conditioned or to be built in the decision Evans expanded to include the fill for the lots in that 24 months, which is complicated to me because we're unaware, certainly we've proposed single-family houses on these lots and grading associated with those houses, but each lot, each individual lot, it's going to have its own site plan when it gets a foundation permit, and each foundation is going to be different than what we're proposing on this plan today, and therefore the fill requirements would be different for each house to be proposed on each lot as we address each lot individually, so it'd be pretty difficult to propose a certain amount of fill in a 24-month period without that information. So certainly we understand that the 24-month condition on the roadway development is something standard of this board and its standard conditions, but we would like to not have that condition be on the lots and the fill on the lots themselves, for we feel that would provide a hardship to a developer coming in and kind of be unnecessary. The second, and that is both in the definitive subdivision approval and the special permit approval. The second conditions in the special permit approval, which says specifically, number 13, Lot 7 and 8 to be designated non-buildable for any purpose other than related to agricultural. Those are the two lots we're selling to Mr. Stott and to Mr. Parley. I feel that that's unnecessary to put the agricultural use restriction when these are lots located within an RB zoning district in the town of Chelmsford and would be governed by the RB zoning district standards and also the Wetlands Protection Act. So if, say, Mr. Stott or Mr. Parley wanted to build a shed on the property that they're purchasing from us, a swimming pool, I believe they should have the right to go seek a building permit on that lot which they've purchased. And it may not be buildable for a single-family home, which it certainly wouldn't have frontage or to be allowed to do that based on the existing lots. But they should be allowed to use them in any manner that an RB zoning district could use their lot within the buffer zone of the wetlands. So we would like that provision taken off.
Okay, which one is this?
It's number 13 of the special permit.
Non-buildable for single family, but may be used for any other purpose?
Yeah, it says related to agricultural.
You may have an old version.
Okay.
an old
this
version.
is the,
I think we
okay.
fixed that.
It's fixed, good. Okay, thank you. That was in the latest version I had emailed, so I just wanted to make sure that had been stricken.
Gotcha.
Those are the two conditions that we'd like to be able to
Okay.
discuss and or modify. So
Great, all right,
we'll be here to
we'll give that,
answer.
we'll give that some discussion.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, well, this is a continuation of the public hearing on 24 Misty Meadows Road. Evan, before I open up the podium, do we have any comments or anything that's come up since our last meeting pertinent to this?
No.
Okay. Would anybody care to speak? Please step up, identify yourself, and try to keep it short, because we do have a lot of people here.
I will.
Thanks.
My name's Walter Sison. I live at 40 Abbott Lane, Chelmsford. And on September 12th, when we had that initial meeting, that long drawn-out meeting, there wasn't enough time to get everybody's comments in. I actually spoke, and I asked a pointed question to the board. Would anybody ever be able to build on Lot 9? And Evan had commented on that. I don't recall exactly what he said. Nancy had made a comment on that, I believe, with regard that it could not be built on because of the wetlands. But I just wanted to get clarification from the board, because when I asked that question, it was tabled to subsequent meetings, and quite honestly, I do a lot of traveling, and I didn't know what the outcome was of that.
Okay. Which one's Lot 9?
Lot 9 is the 26 acres.
It's the 26 acres.
So we had determined that
Yeah.
that was going to be at the last meeting after
Yeah.
we got feedback from the Conservation Commission. And this board, it is going to be donated to the town of Chelmsford Conservation Commission for
Yeah.
wildlife conservation.
Yeah.
So it'll never be built on?
No, not if the Concom has anything to say about it.
Okay,
Or the cons-
thank you.
Unlikely.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, step on up.
I'm Barry Jefferson from 5 Bridle Road. A couple things I just want to talk about. Last meeting, I spoke of 3 concerns from the Bridle Road residents. I won't go through those again. But one of the concerns has to do with bringing in all the fill material. And there's a couple of potential solutions for having, mitigating 700 trucks coming down one particular neighborhood way. One of the problems was having open-ended time frame for all the construction and all the fill material coming in. And Katie has asked not to have a constraint on a 2-year constraint. And my feeling about that is certainly I understand that some of the houses are going to be built individually, and therefore the requirements for fill for those houses won't be known until the last minute when they're built. But it doesn't seem unreasonable that we could put some kind of parameters on the bulk of the material being brought in, maybe 80% of it within a 2-year period, or 90%. I understand there's going to be design changes at the last minute, but to have this thing go open-ended for potentially years, I think really puts the neighborhood in hardship. So that's that point. The second point has to do with the use of Misty Meadow Road. Katie's introduced some new information tonight, which I haven't seen yet. I think that there's a certain burden to show, and maybe this document does show it to you, but I think there's a burden to show that it is unreasonable to use Misty Meadow Road for even a portion of the traffic that'll be involved in the construction and bringing in of landfill. I speak for myself. I know I speak for more than a few neighbors when I say that there's been dialogue over the last several weeks, but I don't think that we've been met halfway in terms of our needs as a neighborhood. I really believe that, Katie. I think my request to the board is put some kind of a constraint saying that Misty Meadow Road would be taking some of the traffic, some portion, 50%, and then put the burden to the engineering firm to come back and say that's unreasonable. I have not seen anything yet in writing that suggests why Misty Meadow Road cannot be used for some of the traffic. Yeah. Now, I know from conversations that's true. It's a hardship. It's difficult to use Misty Meadow Road, but I have not yet seen any evidence of exactly what could be done through Misty Meadow Road and what is unreasonable. So that's my request, that short of Katie coming back and making a proposal that meets us part way and says, okay, we'll help relieve the burden off of Bridle Road, then I'm asking the board now to keep us in mind as far as the neighborhood needs are concerned. And I also ask you to consider the other 2 points that I brought up last time. If you approve tonight, maybe you can consider some constraints, such as the tree boundary on lots 1 and 7, or I should say lot 1, a tree protection area. And I think primarily that, and dealing with the road and the timing would really help us at Bridle Road. And if you don't, I feel like we're going to feel very much abandoned if some of this isn't addressed. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I will note that that the letter that Katie prepared does to some degree address some of the concerns with Misty Meadow, and there clearly are engineering concerns to using that road for anything with any weight. That was my impression.
Right. And so what I'm asking the board to do is to not restrict one way or the other. We will certainly, the builder who comes in here to build these 6 lots will be able to use Misty Meadow Road for probably light-duty construction vehicles coming in and out of the site. They may choose to go to the Conservation Commission and ask for ways to try to supplement these old culverts with reduced cover in the FEMA floodplain area. But I don't know what it's gonna take to put a 42,000-pound truck over a concrete culvert with a foot of cover. And I don't think that it's reasonable or possible to try to permit something now for that with the Conservation Commission when every bit of fill we're gonna put in this road is in floodplain. When every ounce of width that we add to this is within the restricted buffer for Conservation Commission. So we'd like the ability to use Misty Meadow. We'd like the ability to make the appropriate decision for the construction of whether to go down Bridle or Misty Meadow with certain vehicles during construction.
Thanks. Anybody else? Yeah.
So hi, I'm Rhonda Gilbert. I'm at 62 Thomas Drive. And my question was about the other lots that Mr. Parley and Mr. Stott are going to buy. I just want some clarification, perhaps, on when they say, I don't mind if it's used for a pool or something like that. But when we say open to any other application other than a home, I want to know what that means. Could it be used to store equipment? Could it be used, what do we mean when we say to take off that restriction that it's only for agriculture? How open-ended is that?
Well, let me first point out that open to agriculture is pretty open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
That includes a lot of equipment, the kinds of things that you may be concerned with. I mean, there's a lot of latitude on agricultural land.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The agricultural exemption would only go to someone who has more than 5 acres of land.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a lot there that only has 2 acres, they don't get an agricultural exemption. And they'd be bound by the RB zoning. They'd be able to put up a shed or a pool or something.
That's what I'm just trying to get an idea of
Yeah.
what that
Be able to
means,
put up
like
a-
what could be on there.
On the agricultural end, they could put a
put a barn.
30,000 square
I don't mind a
foot
barn,
chicken coop in there if they wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
Here we go with the
The
chickens.
chickens.
I had to throw the chickens.
Yeah, you had to bring up
Hey,
the chickens,
As a right to
right?
farm, you could put a pig
Yeah,
farm in there.
anything, right?
Yeah.
There's no holding it back.
I understand.
But certainly any other kind of building, any commercial building, any industrial building outside of an agricultural use will not be allowed.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thanks.
Sure.
I just wanted to add, just as an added protection to that, anything that's done on each of those lots would require some form of conservation approval.
Absolutely.
So it would require notice of the abutters and a public hearing to get anything permitted on either of those lots.
Right. Anybody else? Oh, great.
Hello, I'm Laura Cormier, 8 Bridle Road, and I want to ask you a little more about protecting the privacy between my lot, which abuts Lot 1, and I appreciate the response that was given to the request to protect the property line. I specifically asked about protecting the stone wall, so that wasn't specifically mentioned in the response from the applicant. And I think it's important. The stone wall adds a lot of character and I think value to the properties on Bridle Road.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do have some trees on my side of the property line, so, I do have a bit of privacy no matter what happens over there. But I think that it's reasonable to request some kind of protection of privacy because that also adds to the value of my home. And, my home's on the market and potential buyers have said, oh, well, we like this lot because of the privacy. And I sent a picture to the board and showed them that it is, very picturesque. And I want to know what kinds of things could be done to plant trees if the future homeowner of my home wants to plant some trees down there in, line sight of that lot's home, or plant some trees on the other side, with, you know, restrictions that you might need to have on trim or whatever, to keep some of the privacy that we currently have. So, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
It's a little bit complicated. I think in the context of what we're doing, there's probably not a whale of a lot that we can do in terms of protecting trees on the other side of that line. I think if we can, now, where, by the way, is the stone wall? Is it on the line?
It's right on the property line.
Okay, so keep that, that certainly can be controlled by agreement, and it sounds as if everybody wants to keep it.
Yep.
Trees on the other side of that, in this context, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, but I don't think we have a lever.
It's within your jurisdiction to place reasonable conditions.
Yeah.
So previous definitive subdivisions and cluster developments have contained no-cut zones
Okay.
along property lines, perimeter property lines.
All right, so how big is that lot there? That's a
me grab
full
Yeah.
400, or 40, 40,000?
Lot 1 is 86,000 square
80, so it's a
feet.
pretty good sized lot.
And we have a 38-foot side setback where RB requires 25.
Okay.
So they already have considerable protection built in for an RB neighborhood.
Yeah, they do.
And, you know, we have, whereas for commercial industrial, we have landscaping standards, we have absolutely none for residential.
What's the
properties.
current situation of the,
Wouldn't want to
yeah,
create a precedence to expect it.
yeah. What's the current situation of trees on that, on the lot 1 side of the line? They
I
fairly
mean, Lot
big?
1 is fully treed, yeah.
It's fully treed, okay.
Right. And it may be within reason that the developer of Lot 1 chooses to keep some of those trees.
I
We
would
just
think he
don't want it to
probably
be
would,
a condition. Or certainly fill in the lower extremities, because a lot of those are pines that provide an upper level coverage.
Right, yeah, I see what you mean. So even leaving the existing trees on them is probably not gonna do a whale of a lot. Okay, good, I think I at least understand it. Anybody else like to say something? Certainly, encourage it if you can. Okay,
I have one quick question that was brought up to me. Bridle Road. Has Bridle Road been accepted to its entirety or just to the cul-de-sac?
I mean, if you're asking, I mean, essentially, before we started this, we checked with town council to see that we had the right to extend Bridle Road in the manner shown on this plan. And it's been told to me that that was approved by town council as within our rights.
I'd like to see that, because I'm not saying that it's not, but usually when a road is accepted, it's accepted to the end of the build-out of the
Correct.
road. And that isn't built all the way to the property line.
Yes,
About a 15-foot difference.
no, it's accepted to where the right-of-way,
It wouldn't be
right,
be-
okay, so
because
right,
the road
because the
hasn't been
pavement
built out
doesn't.
on the entire
right,
length of it.
Right, we checked that within the first conceptuals of this to make sure that we weren't gonna have any issues with that. And the DPW went straight to Paul Haverty to seek a letter to say that we were within our rights to extend Bridle Road in this manner.
Because the letter we just got from Paul Haverty on a different project kind of contradicts that exact thing, because he's saying on a different project, you don't have the right to cross over a piece of property if it's not on an accepted way.
So the property is located within a right-of-way of an accepted way. It's reasonably developed
Yeah.
to the end, per town standards for access.
They don't necessarily build out the whole road
right.
that's been accepted.
Right, and there are areas within town, so there's certainly, and I am aware of some of the
I've been through,
different,
the reason I'm asking this, I've been through a similar situation
and
to
that's
this on
exactly
my own.
why, and that's exactly why
And-
Steve went to
And
town
it's almost an
council.
identical
No.
thing, except for one was 60 feet and this is 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to see,
And so what this is, why this is different is because this is a temporary cul-de-sac that was put in place as a temporary measure until the road was continued. This cul-de-sac is not part of the right-of-way. It is a temporary cul-de-sac.
all right, I'd
For
like to see
future
that in
development.
writing before I vote on it. 'Cause I don't believe it. And that's just me, but you guys can make your own decisions.
Is it,
I could pull it up probably in my email and show it to you because there was multiple emails that went back and forth between myself and Stephen Yonley.
I'd like to see the actual, the acceptance of the road, because it'll be written in the acceptance of the road, the metes and bounds of what was accepted.
So, but as a back end of this, if we're not allowed to legally extend Bridle Road, it won't matter if you approve or deny the project. The existence of Bridle Road cannot change your decision based on the proposed plans. If
Well, you don't
we
have-
can't do it, we can't do it.
But if you don't have the right to cross, to add on to Bridle Road, if you're not on a butter to
Then your
Bridle
approval is
Road,
null and void.
yeah,
right?
yeah, we can't,
Then your
We can't-
approval
we
would be
can't
null and
vote on it.
void.
no, we can vote.
You can't vote on
But
it
it
because
can't be built.
it's not a legitimate project.
Well, if it turns out it can't be built, it can't be built. But, and I'm not at all sure that's the case, but.
That's just my comment on
Very
it.
specifically to your project, when I brought this to Steve Yonley's direction, he said, "We just received a letter on a project that Mr. Cole brought before the board where he was not allowed to extend a roadway. I need to make sure this is okay with Mr. Haverty before you continue your engineering plans and move forward with this project," and that is what was done. And the town engineering department has approved this project based on that information.
So there should be a letter stating that. Then if it was
All I'm asking for is to be able to see the acceptance of the road and how much of the road was accepted. If it says it's accepted to its entirety, you're 100% right. If it says it's accepted to the end of the cul-de-sac with a certain length, then you're not right.
Your counselor says I'm right, which is what I'm telling you, but.
I've never seen a lawyer lie.
Okay, so this is town council we're talking about, so that's unfortunate that you say that about town council
I'm not
tonight.
saying about him, I'm saying about all lawyers.
And it's unfortunate that it's being brought up this far into the process, but I will see if I can pull up the letter while we're sitting here having this discussion. And maybe I will have it printed before.
So just while Katie's looking, do you want to maybe table this topic, let Katie
Yeah.
find it on?
Yeah, you can go
And then we'll
dig
skip
that up.
to the next agenda item, which should be fairly short.
Yes, I would think so.
All right.
Okay. Well, okay, at the moment we have,
Can I come in then if it's next agenda?
well, hold on, let me figure out if we have to, what we have to do here. Back to your cage.
I think you can just table it.
I think we can, but I was going to ask you, is this something that you could dig up some basic information on?
Well, let's see what
Okay.
Katie comes up with.
All right.
If she could then email it to Colleen. Colleen can go downstairs and print it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we will table this for the moment, and let's pop over to 254 Billrica Road, Sunny Acres. Then you can come back. You can come back.
Don't bother with the street list because it doesn't give you the dimensions. It just tells you that the street was accepted. It's asking us for the length of which it was accepted.
You're on.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Brian Melissi with Whitman and Bingham Associates.
You may remember me as the site engineer for the Sunny Acres project over at 254 Barica Road. With me tonight is Jeff Schwartz and Shirley Eaton, who are the owner-operators of Sunny Acres. We're here in front of you tonight to have a discussion surrounding the occupancy permit for the project. We are currently under a TCO, or a temporary occupancy permit. The dining room portion of the project is open and running as of a couple days ago. And the assisted living portion is currently 99.5% done, waiting for an inspection from the Department of Public Health in order to open up the assisted living or the memory care wing. We're here tonight to ask you guys or have a conversation surrounding the planning board sign-off for the occupancy permit. Everything is pretty much done, 99% done. The only thing that isn't done is the landscaping plan has not been completed. What I have on the board here is the approved plan. What I have in front of me that I've just received tonight is a proposal to kind of finish and fill in some of the landscaping. Obviously, today being November 14th, we're not going to be putting a whole lot more plants in the ground, but what I'd like to do is very quickly run through the site, where the landscaping is, where the landscaping might be a little sufficient, tell you what we'd like to do,
Okay.
and then see if there's some way the board can maybe give Evan the ability to sign off on the occupancy permit so we can move in. Again, this was the landscape plan as part of the approval. This was the addition. The dining room was in the portion here connected to the existing building. This is the memory care wing. Starting from the rear of the site, coming around front, the memory garden area is all landscaped up. The wrought iron fences are in if you were to take a ride back
Yeah.
there. Some of the plantings along this edge were omitted. There is a white vinyl fence now that causes to block the view of the abutting property. Everything in and around the building is planted up, except for the annuals that call for on this plan. Obviously, there's no real color there yet because, again, it's gonna snow tomorrow and it's November. So really, the area we're talking is kind of the earthen berm and then the streetscape portion right along Barica Road. If you were to go out there today, right about this telephone pole and where I've marked in my highlighter here, they were able to keep the existing vegetation and some large trees. So if you go stand right here today, there's a pretty good existing buffer that was there already. So the portion here, they deviated a little bit from this plan. However, out there today, there's 5 fir trees. I have the names rolled up in here. I told you before, I don't know the difference between an elm and an oak. But if you really wanted to, I can tell you they're in here. There's a couple of thundercloud type of trees that are in here. The transformer was actually put in this location here. There's some arborvitae surrounding the transformer. And so Stony Brook Landscaping has been hired by Sunny Acres. He's been maintaining the landscaping at the facility for years. He did the planting. He's gonna fill in with a couple of more trees out in this area here in the springtime, when the time calls for it. Again, I was kind of very quick, but what we'd really like the board to allow us is to continue on and get that occupancy permit. We ran into a few issues surrounding some of the site construction. We had issues with the site contractor. I will say that Sunny Acres has met all their financial obligations as far as the permit goes. They paid the amount to the sidewalk fund that was listed in the permit. They have paid their sewer connection fee. One of the issues surrounding was an additional transformer required by National Grid. Of course, you don't know that going into the project until usually the 11th hour, and that's what happened. There was some changes to the drainage system that caused a little bit of a change order and some monies being expended there. They really would like to get the facility under an occupancy permit so that the DPH can finish their sign-off. There's a waiting list of people waiting to occupy these beds and to get them in there and start generating some of that income that they've expended. So that's kind of where we're at in a nutshell.
Okay.
And go back to you, Mr. Chair.
Now, let me, just a question. So you've got some landscaping in the back, you've got some landscaping in the front.
Correct.
And on the side there, is that
So if
being,
you were to go
that's,
out- If
yeah,
you were to go out there today, there's still a really decent.
big pile of dirt.
Dirt out
Yeah,
there.
I went by it.
Fortunately, what had happened when the excavation started,
Yeah.
they mixed the debris with some of the construction debris,
Oh,
some of the
right.
pavement and whatnot. And so right now, one of the issues we're having with the site guy is he needs to clean up the pile. So that we have a contractor to come in and take a bunch of that material out and reshape that slope here.
Okay,
You really can't do that until some of that material has been kind of cleaned up.
Understood.
It's not hazardous, it's nothing anybody's gonna get sick over, it's just you can't really do it until some of the big chunks of concrete.
but,
are
but,
out of
but you would be planning to finish that planting when that problem is resolved?
Correct, and
Okay.
finish this whole area off and kind
Gotcha.
of get rid of that.
All right.
So what I'm looking for is for the board, whether it's tonight or 2 weeks from now, to formally vote to a minor modification to modify the previously approved landscaping plan. Nothing to do with temporary COs or final COs. They have a 90-day temp CO right now.
Yeah,
And that was kind of an arbitrary number. But it's certainly enough time for them to come back to this board with the proposed landscape plan, and for this board to approve the official and formal minor modification.
okay. Okay, so
So-
this, yeah,
So, I'm looking at the agenda. I mean, I think the agenda's, it's somewhat open-ended. I think this was a discussion, whether the board wants to approve the minor modification tonight or wait 2 weeks so that it can be, formally placed on the agenda. But that's what needs to be done.
okay. Well, let me understand, if this were to be viewed tonight as a minor modification, just exactly what is that modification? It's just, I mean, there's stuff that's not done
Now the
yet.
proposed,
Yeah,
I do, and it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of chicken scratch. I was
Oh,
hoping
dear.
to get it a little earlier so I could put something on there. And what it is the red's what's been done, the green's what is gonna be put in. And it's-
okay.
So,
It, yeah,
there is a proposal there.
Yeah.
So-
And again, when that occupancy permit issue comes up again, some of this planting that we do propose, and even with the minor modification, we're gonna be asking for that occupancy permit prior
So-
to some of that.
yeah, so if 2 weeks from now, if at the next planning board meeting, the minor modification is approved, are you literally going to be held up by DPH between now and the next 2 weeks? Are they withholding something because it's a temp CO?
No, DPH, they don't care about the
Okay.
landscaping.
Okay, so they're not holding up
They
anything,
want those patients in there. There's a need.
Yeah.
but are they holding that up because it's a temp CO?
No, but we'd like to clean the,
Okay,
it's not like we're not gonna do.
okay,
this
so then
landscaping.
what I propose is,
yeah.
2 weeks from now, we put this on the agenda, minor modification, have somebody formalize the
And get us a
the
clean
new
picture.
landscape plan, clean it up.
Yeah,
It will be approved at the next meeting.
I would think so.
What that
yeah.
will do is, that will essentially eliminate the need for a temp CO.
Okay.
And the reason being is that it's not about when the landscaping gets done, because your minor modification will have a notation that it will be done in the springtime.
Right,
And then we'll be able to issue a final CO.
okay.
I wasn't in a position to sign off on the final CO because the landscaping plan wasn't done in accordance with your approval.
Okay. I think
I
that makes
apologize
it,
if I misspoke.
No, it's quite all right. It's
Yeah.
quite all right.
no, that makes perfectly good sense.
So as long as you're confident that you're not going to have any delays on your end because of a temp CO for 2 additional weeks, then I think we're all on the same
Not for 2
page.
weeks.
Okay.
All right.
If we can't get approved in 2 weeks, then. Would we do it as a condition?
Can we
No,
just,
I think we just look at it. I mean, it'd be nice to have a complete plan that we can look at. Yep,
Yeah, could I ask a couple questions? Because I'm not sure I really understand what we're doing here. Is the intention to change the landscaping plan, the final landscaping plan, or is it just to phase in the landscaping?
It's change it a little bit. There's gonna be some fir trees, there's gonna be some
So
deciduous trees.
you're changing the
but they are gonna
materials?
change some of the materials, correct.
Okay. So the need to change the landscaping plan is, one, to change some of the materials, swap one for another, and two, to identify that some of this landscaping will not be completed until spring.
Correct.
Yeah.
You have to guess, Brian, what's the percentage of landscaping that will be done?
90%,
Yeah.
maybe 85%.
It's already complete.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, Sunny Acres has been doing business in town for 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not
Been here a
going
long
anywhere.
time.
They want
Yeah.
to make it look nice, it's just, it becomes a time crunch.
No, I think this, it,
I mean,
this
this
makes
was a
sense.
great
I think, and it's
landscape.
getting closer and closer to winter, I think
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, you're not doing anything till April.
I
yeah,
just
but
don't wanna see it
for
come back
for them
as-
to be able to move on and get their
an
beds
inferior
occupied, it's kind of
Yeah.
a crucial thing, and it's,
Right, because Thanksgiving,
And
you
you're
get the
gonna-
I don't think it would hurt to do it as a condition, give 'em the approval, conditioned upon them bringing in
Yeah.
the plan that's all done. He's
Yeah.
adding to it, he's not deducting from it, he's
I'd be
putting
fine with
more
that.
stuff in.
I mean, they've been in business for many
Yeah.
years, and it's always looked nice, no matter what they've done there.
And it's the same contractor who's been taking care of the landscaping out there, so that's
I'm fine
important.
with it.
Right, well, okay, if we were to do it that way, then the procedurally, what we would do is approve the minor site plan,
Okay.
subject to presentation in 2 weeks of a full set of cleaned up plans. Does that make sense to you, Evan?
Yeah.
Work for you? Work for you?
Rick,
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make the motion to do just what Mike just said. How's that?
All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Evan,
Any further comments?
I did.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, that should bring that in 2 weeks and we'll have a look.
Thank you very much.
But
I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving.
you
Put
too,
decent
I hope you
plants in there.
eat too much and don't regret it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're back on 24 Misty Meadow, I think.
See you later.
Okay,
Colleen, I'm leaving.
you got that?
It's in an email train, so this is it's the second sentence
Thank
of
you.
this email, which covers, was sent on September 10th. And it's from your Assistant Director of Public Works. The second paragraph says, Bridal, you are all set, just a different set of circumstances. Glenn was at the end of a road that went straight and was not accepted all the way up to his property. Bridal is accepted all the way down to your piece.
Okay.
Period.
All right, that's what we needed to know, I think.
You want to add that to the record?
Yep. You got a copy of that?
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Added to the record. Okay. So, we are back at 24 Misty Meadow. Has anybody had second thoughts and would like to say something? This is getting awful close to your last chance.
So I did submit a picture over email this morning of what the property line looks like, that I'm
Right.
asking for some privacy with trees. And I just looked at it again. I do have it on here. I don't know if you want to show it. But there are a lot of evergreen trees that have foliage low that if they were kept there would provide some privacy. Even if it's just in the section that aligns with the side of that home, it would make a big difference, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We've got that. Any further comments? Well, let me pass it around the board once, and then if nothing further comes up, we can close the public hearing. Any thoughts? Is there any more information that any of us think we need before we're prepared to move forward with this and take a vote? Let me point out also that we're running with 5 people, and I think you need 5. I don't know where Ed is tonight, so I want to give you the option. I mean, if we were to go forward. Okay.
I would still like to see, I know it says that in a letter,
Okay.
I would like to see the actual acceptance of the road.
Evan, is this something you can dig up out of the records?
Bridal was
accepted in 1967, Article 63 at the Springtown meeting. It was 50 foot wide, 0.11 miles. There's a plan in the vault.
There's a plan there?
Yep, and Steve created this.
No, is there a plan on it?
Yep, plan number
Can you pull-
555.
Can you pull the plan up?
No, it's physically in the vault downstairs.
Oh,
Paper, old Mylar plans.
okay.
That's where they're kept.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be a problem to get it then.
No, except for, if it wasn't there, it would not be listed here. Steve put all of this.
But we still
together.
want to have a look at it and see what it's precisely
just
what
wanna
it
look
says,
at
yeah.
it.
Well, in that case, do we want to continue this to 2 weeks from now, such that we can review that plan,
I'd like-
obtain and
yeah.
review that plan?
What are you gonna do with it?
Yeah, what are we gonna
That
do?
information, I mean, it's there.
So we can vote on it tonight, but the way I'm gonna vote tonight, they're not gonna win. So I think it'd be better off to look at the plan. But if you wanna vote on it tonight, go ahead.
We certainly don't want that to be the case.
Special permit requires supermajority of the voting members.
Right, it does. It's going to need 5. That's exactly
We
what
have
we've
5
got
voting
Oh, we
members.
at the
I'm
moment.
just trying to be fair. I just wanna see it. That's all I'm asking. I'm not,
Well, I guess,
I mean, your trusted advisors have said it's
Yeah.
there and said we're allowed to do it. So if you need to physically see it in your hand, then the town can provide that. And we will wait 2 weeks because
okay, I
it's
guess
there.
that's pretty much what we're going to have to do.
Motion to continue this public meeting,
Might as well, yeah, we might as well leave the public
Public
hearing
hearing.
open.
until 2 weeks from tonight, until the next meeting, whatever that date is.
Okay, I have a motion.
28th?
You wanna go over the decision?
Tim gave you a
Yeah.
second.
No, probably don't. Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now, let's talk about procedurally how we want to handle this. I mean, obviously, this is coming back in, and we're going to have a look at that material. Is there anything else that we need to look at to make a decision here? That anybody can think of?
Question. Would it be possible for those of us, in the neighborhood to get a copy of that engineering letter that talks about Misty Meadow Road and its restrictions?
If you email me, I can forward it to you.
Yeah, we'll get it to you.
Great, thank you.
Here you go.
Appreciate that.
Okay,
I look forward to signing.
all right. So you can't think of anything else that we want to ask, because I don't want to let this drag beyond 2 weeks from now. I'm going to assume that we have everything we need.
So,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so we have voted to continue this for 2 weeks. We'll see you then. You can come back. You can come back, Henry.
Don't speak about it anymore now. Next.
All right.
Next, let the record show. Henry's back. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody want to take a break here, or are we all set? Okay. I'll let the room clear for a sec here, and then we can get to work on 59 Parkhurst.
I have one letter.
Okay, good. Okay. Everybody ready?
Ready.
The next item on the agenda is 59 Parkhurst and 3 Jean Avenue, minor modification to previously approved site plan and special permit mod.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. I'm here before you tonight with a modification to add some signs to the self-storage building at 59 Parkhurst. Right now, this is a picture of the existing building with the green self-storage sign that faces Route 3.
Yep.
So the sign that you see at the top on the side. Essentially, since they've been open, they've found it necessary to have additional signage on the front of the building, facing Parkhurst Road, which is its traditional frontage. So we have a request before you to add 2 signs, essentially the address along the top of the front door, and then that storage solutions sign on the front of the proposed building. That adds an additional 55.3 feet of signage. Typically, 80 square feet is allowed on 2 faces when you face more than one road. The existing sign is 101.53 square feet, which was approved under the special permit for COID. We're essentially looking for an additional 55.3 between those 2 front signs, in addition to that, as a modification to the special permit. We also had some questions, and I provided you with a site plan that shows a location for a flagpole, and it was more or less just to include in the site plan. They'd like to put up a flagpole. The flagpole, being 50 feet in height, meets all the zoning requirements, so it would be allowed a permit based upon that plan. But it modifies the plan itself. So that is it.
Okay. Does anybody here have a concern or an interest? It looks pretty
I
straightforward.
have no
to me.
problem with it. I
Pretty
think putting the
straightforward.
address on there.
It makes a lot of
biggest
sense,
grade,
yeah.
yes.
Because I can see the problem. You drive down Parkhurst, and if it doesn't say Storage Solutions on the side of the building, you don't know where you are. You don't see the sign that faces Route 3, so.
I went by today, and it definitely needs.
Okay, it needs it.
One quick question on it.
Yeah.
On the access road, the emergency access road, there's some boulders in that.
It's not an emergency access road. It's an access easement, which is within that path that's allotted on that side. It's not approved as emergency access.
Is the boulders gonna stay there?
The boulders contain the side of the easement, basically prepare the easement as to where the back parcel has rights.
Okay.
Okay, I thought that was always just an easement for the building out in the back as like a,
It was, but it was being overused. It was probably paved twice the width of the actual easement itself. So the development that's on this lot now contains the access within the easement that they're allotted.
Okay. Gotcha.
Make a motion to approve.
Yep, got a motion to approve.
second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. You're all set.
Okay.
Okay. We have a new public hearing. 2125 Quigley Ave. Karatanram Temple, Inc. And you have some letters to read?
I do.
Can you open the public hearing, legal ad?
Yeah, he's got
Huh?
the legal.
He's got it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Legal notice. The Chelmsford Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, at 7:00 PM at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, room 204, to consider the application submitted by Trinitarium Temple, Inc. Is that correct? Okay. For the property located at 21-25 Quigley Ave. This property is located in the RC General Residence Zoning District. The project proposes a new 80 by 35 structure and associated site improvements related to parking and landscaping. Applicant requests site plan approval, section 195-104, and any other relief that may be deemed necessary. As a religious use, this use project is exempt from certain aspects of local zoning under GLC 48S3. Copies of the proposal are available in the Community Development Room, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. All interested parties are invited to comment in writing or may present any relevant information for consideration at the public hearing on Wednesday, November 14, 2018, per order Mike Raisbeck. Next is from Fire Prevention. Dear members of the board, water supply appears to be adequate. The required pressure and flow shall be confirmed by a current water flow test performed approximate to the site, with all calculations submitted to this department for review and approval. Access for firefighting apparatus and emergency vehicles shown on the plan is adequate. All fire lanes shall be marked and approved payment markings and/or approved signage. The engineer of record has provided this department with a fire truck turning diagram, which is acceptable to this office. Fire apparatus access shall be designed by a registered engineer to withstand the weight of a fire apparatus. Snow storage shall not obstruct or impede fire access roads or turnaround. All exits shall have sidewalks to allow a continuous path from the exit that lead to a public way. The dumpster location shown on this plan is adequate. A fire alarm system shall be required for the fire department approval of this project. Additional fire protection systems, including an automatic sprinkler system, may be required and will be determined at the time of the building permit application and review. The applicant is advised that if a sprinkler system is required as a result of the building permit review, a hydrant will be required to be installed within 60 feet of any fire department connection. The architectural roofline elements represent a safety concern for the fire department. Therefore, the developer and contractor shall work with the Fire Prevention Office to find a mutually acceptable solution to the fire department's concerns. The applicant must submit an application to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for address and unit numbering through its coordinator, Trish Desers. This office would approve of the plan with these conditions and changes, and I ask the board to make this letter part of the approval process. Respectfully submitted, Danny Katsoukas. Water Department, see attached letter. Dear Planning Board members, the Board of Water Commissioners of the North Chelmsford Water District have reviewed this proposed site plan for the Trinitarian Temple, 21-25 Quigley Ave, North Chelmsford, to construct an 80 by 35-foot building. The North Chelmsford Water District will supply water with the full understanding that the applicant shall follow the rules and regulations of the North Chelmsford Water District and the Chelmsford Fire Department's requirements and agreed to the following conditions. 1, the water service will be a minimum size of 2-inch at the water meter. A state-approved backflow preventers must be installed. 2, the old existing fire hydrants located in front of the existing property must be raised to the proper grade and replaced with a new fire hydrant, cost by the applicant. 3, all materials, inspections, overhead entry fees, tapping of domestic water services, etc., will be coordinated through the North Chelmsford Water District. Sincerely, Bruce Harper, Senior Superintendent. And Police Department, also see the attached letter. Dear Planning Board members, the Division Special Services have reviewed the attached site plan for 21-25 Quigley Ave in North Chelmsford. Upon careful review of the plans, the Special Services Division would make 2 recommendations. The first recommendation would be that the temple would have several off-site parking locations with shuttles going between each. Currently, the temple has an agreement with Dolan's Funeral Home on Middlesex Street. The police department is concerned that this lot will not be sufficient to address the overflow parking due to the fact that the new structure would eliminate approximately 40 parking spaces, and Dolan's may have their own events during this time, which would eliminate this parking option. Currently, during the 3 major events held at the temple, the parking has been a public safety concern due to the fact that many of the attendees do not utilize the off-site parking and in turn park illegally in violation of certain bylaws. These bylaws include parking within an intersection within 10 feet of a fire hydrant or parking without allowing 18 feet of unobstructed travel. I have met with Howard and Stein engineer Katie Enright and leaders of the temple. They have agreed to look into the additional satellite parking locations, St. John's Montessori School, and possibly the Mill Building. I have also provided the group with copies and explanations of the current laws to help educate members regarding potential violations. The temple leaders have agreed to translate these regulations into their native language to help educate members as to these parking bylaws. The second recommendation would be requiring a minimum of 2 detail officers to assist with traffic and security during 3 major events. If these 2 recommendations are satisfied by the temple, the police department would not have an issue with the project moving forward. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Lieutenant Colin Spence. And Board of Health, no comments. That's it.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. I'm here tonight with members from the temple to represent their proposed new temple building at 21 to 25 Quigley Ave in North Chelmsford. Currently on the site, there's an existing residence and there's an existing function hall that's used historically on the site. There used to be a couple of structures also along the southern edge of that plan where there was 2 exterior decks with roofs. And some additional outbuildings. Those have since been removed since we started this process, and there exists a shed on that side of the property. The whole property in the area of the proposed building, which is the darker brown building, to the middle of the parking lot, is proposed in an area that's currently striped for parking. There's a flagpole and a couple other monuments in the center of the parking lot there. Typically, when they have a big event, this entire area is actually roped off and used and is tented and is used as part of the function. So it's not currently actually used as parking when some of these larger events happen. In speaking with the temple and meeting with their building group, essentially they need on a day-to-day basis upwards of maybe 30 spaces. So when we started to redevelop this property and look at the plan, what we wanted to do was create a better circulation and flow, create a location for the building that made sense on the lot and provided access all around the building and provided the space that they required for this meditation center. This new building would be used for special religious activities as a meditation center and as a library for the scriptures. And the old building or the function hall that exists there today would be used for the larger public events. So what's left on site is 31 spaces within the site and 3 spaces that exist along the side of Quigley today, which is up in the northern section of Quigley against a retaining wall that it's there today. So 30 spaces is what they need mostly. And when I've been there multiple times during the day, meeting with the building committee, there's maybe 8 spots, 9 spots that are used through the lot. But Quigley itself is a fairly narrow road. We did have a department head meeting and talk about some of the issues related to these larger events. The holidays are mainly April 14th through 15th and 16th, which is Cambodian New Year. And I'm sure I'm going to not say this correctly. So there's a 15-day festival at the end of September, and there's also a festival that takes place on any day in October. So essentially, there's 3 events here that take place where they're going to require the majority of the parking. All of their events, they do hire police details, but one of the issues that we heard from Lieutenant Spence is that they do get calls from neighbors whenever there is one of these large events about the parking situation. So to address that, first of all, we had Lieutenant Spence come to the temple and meet with the building committee and some of the members yesterday. He was able to provide us with the laws for parking, and that's going to be distributed to the members. So it was great to have him sit there and say, we need the road 18 feet wide. You can't park on both sides. You can't park within a certain distance of the intersection, which is right south of this site. You need to make sure you're a certain distance away from people's driveways, et cetera, et cetera. And so this was, in this format, was all new to the temple. So we were able to distribute that, and we will be distributing that to the members as they come to the facility so they know. So hopefully these parking infractions won't be happening in the future. Certainly also it's come to our attention that they don't always have the same people coming here. So it's really hard to say, hey, go park at Dolan's down the street when people aren't really sure. They might have be coming in from Boston or Lowell or Burlington or somewhere that's not Chelmsford. So as part of their security detail, they have a team within the temple of 5 personnel that are kind of the security or the operators during some of these large events that work with the police department. They're going to create maps that they can hand out essentially at the opening to this parking lot to show them to go to Dolan's. They do own a shuttle and have a shuttle that goes from Dolan's to here. They've also had verbal conversations with the Montessori school, which is right behind here, regarding using their parking, because typically it's off hours, their needs for time, and also they have a meeting set up with St. John's Church as backups. But they've said since they've been here and in operation, there's only been one time when there's been an event at Dolan's that they've had to basically use the back of the lot instead of the spaces closest to the building, and it wasn't an issue. So we're going to continue to work with Lieutenant Spence. Like I said, we had a great meeting yesterday. They've agreed that, they will work with us to make this palatable for the neighborhood when it comes to the parking those 3 times a year. The building itself is a basement and a first floor with an elaborate roof line. The basement is just for storage. There's stairs down there for storage, and that's it. The first floor level is a big open room with some bathroom facilities at the rear and a storage area. So it's pretty open. There's a large, essentially, call it a farmer's porch, obviously, but there's a large porch that you can walk all the way around on the exterior. So there's an interior darker line which shows you the building, and then there's a large porch which surrounds the entire structure so that people can go walk outside and make a complete loop of the building. As part of this, we have also talked to the fire department about the turning radius, and this parking lot layout and the building location provides an opportunity for the full Chelmsford ladder truck to turn around within the parking lot. And since we've been speaking with the architect a little bit more, this building will be required to be sprinkled. So we will be upgrading the line going to that rear building and providing a hydrant within 60 feet of that connection. The building itself, I'm going to go to the pictures of the building itself. Is a stucco building with asphalt shingles, with some different wooden elements and decorative elements throughout. That's kind of the pretty picture of the building. This is the architectural rendering of the building. The height per your bylaw is 25.5 feet, which fits within the RC zoning district. The only requirement that we will need to be waived from is the FAR. Essentially, because we're within the RC zoning district, the FAR is 0.2. We're at 0.26 by the proposal of this building, which includes the basement space. The existing function hall has 2 floors for the full extent of the building, and the existing residence is also 2 stories that's there today. So we're seeking, because it's a religious use, we're seeking that waiver from the planning board as we move forward, along with the parking waiver to allow for the standard day-to-day use parking rather than parking for those 3 functions per year. We've also talked to preliminarily with engineering. The site currently has essentially 2 dry wells on site that don't connect anywhere. The proposal is to repave and restripe the entire parking lot and provide two new dry wells with areas that those dry wells can drain off to if they overflow to the existing locations. And we're also decreasing on-site impervious surfaces by 3,000 square feet. So we're decreasing the amount of runoff to the neighbors that would currently flow off this site today. We've also prepared, right now, the landscaping out there. There's an abundance of landscaping around certain parts of the building, and around the exterior property line. But what we are looking to do is something a little bit more organized and provide additional landscape spaces where the pavement's not necessary for access. So you can see on this plan there's significant new landscape beds in the front of the proposed building, which actually the DPW has asked us to extend that not to the right-of-way line, but to the pavement, where the pavement extension would be there. So that'll increase the front landscaping pretty significantly over what's there today. Certainly also on the side of the building, the rear of the building, and around the foundation of the new building. We've also added some screening to the neighbors on the northeast side of the plan, where the parking lot lights are, where the cars park facing towards Quigley, and there are single-family residences across the street. So even though those parking spaces are already there facing that way, we've restriped those areas, curbed those areas, drained those areas, and provided a landscape screen along that upper section there to provide some privacy and some non-intrusion from the headlights in that location. We've also upgraded the lighting, so we did a survey to look at where the lights were on the existing structure, and I'm proposing to replace those. So the floodlights that are out there today would be replaced by downward directed, dark sky compliant LED 4000K color instruments instead of what's on the building today. And we're also upgrading all of the parking lot lighting in the parking lot to be, again, dark sky compliant, directed downward, and meet that color requirement that the town of Chelmsford has. So I believe that basically covers all of it. Certainly, we have many representatives from the temple here tonight. If you have any specific questions, I know Board of Health made a statement of no comment, but we had talked to Sue Rosa about the existing conditions of the existing building and just making sure everything was all set with what was going on site, and the location of the dumpster, et cetera. And also, I don't believe you have a letter yet from Christina Papadopoulos, but we had some initial discussions just about what we were providing for on-site drainage. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Katie. Any questions for Katie before we open this up?
We're fine with it. They're exempt from zoning anyhow, so.
Got one.
Yeah.
4,000K is an option with these lights. Hopefully you're sticking with the 3,000.
Oh, yeah, I just said the 4,000 because I knew 4,000 or under, I tell all my lighting consultants, I don't, if it's under, I don't, it's fine. So it's what's on the
They
board.
had the 5 and the 6, but I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
50.
okay.
Katie, what's the issue with the roof line? You know?
The issue with the roof
Yeah, I
line?
think the fire made.
Oh, so,
They have the,
so there's some,
Spirit dissipators or something.
Like the one up on 3A.
right, like the
Yeah.
one up on 3A. So they just want to meet with us and discuss what the materials are. I think there, it shows more in here.
Yeah.
So the elements that come out from the roof line, they just want to make sure when they're fighting a fire, they're not going to get hurt. So essentially, I think what was done on the other temple, but also here, is that the materials will be vetted out with the fire department to make sure that they're comfortable with them. And that they serve the, certainly they need to serve the religious purpose of being on the building, but also work with the fire department to make sure the fire department is safe.
How many more people will be, because the other buildings are staying, the existing ones, right? So
So we're not expecting more people. This new building is a special place. So we're not expecting to have 100 more people here because we have a building. Essentially, the same people are going to come regardless. They usually are in the parking lot celebrating and in the existing temple building. But now there'll be an opportunity to have this more special building on the property for the monks to meditate in.
So what was the total number of people now going to the church?
I don't know that. Do you know? How many people go there now?
In a regular day, probably 20 to 30. Yeah, but the most is 50.
Okay. Do they have like church on Sundays? I mean, that,
Yeah,
like,
we have it's about similar to church we have the occasion every week.
Mike, you should have him come up with
I
a
know,
mic.
but,
Up to the microphone.
you
You have
He'll
to
get
come
up
up,
there.
come up to the microphone, just so everybody at home can hear. too.
just want to learn a little more.
No,
It seems like there's a lot of people.
I want to make sure that everybody at home can hear.
So
So my name is Dan Chia. Reside at number 1 Nicholas Road in Chelmsford too. The daily practice at the temple, the name of that temple is Triratanaram. Yeah, Triratanaram. We have probably 30, the most is 50 person at that building. But this specific building is required to build for the monk to meditate, like Kerry said it, and also we can use as a library for the new generation to learn about Buddhism, about the Buddhist teaching, and something like that. Yeah, it's a special building.
I understand.
But the existing big building used as a hall only for a small ceremonial, religious ceremony.
They live on site now, the monks? Do they live on site?
Yes,
the monks?
yeah, we have a small building for the house, for the monks living there.
Yeah.
And,
Do you have like a weekly service, like say
Yes.
Catholic Church, for example, on Saturday or Sundays, masses at 5 or 4 o'clock? Do you guys have similar to that, like weekly?
very similar in the sense that we have every week ceremony, religious ceremony, but it's not a big one. There are several devoted disciples to go to the temple, but like I said, it's not many as in our church. We have
So weekly, you'd say 40 to 50 people daily?
yeah,
but-
the most is 50.
And then you have the events, 3 big events, where that's where there's a ton of people. there, where you have to-
Yeah, the big event is 3 yearly, and probably ranging from 100 to 200 people, I think.
Sure.
How many parking spots are on there right now? 70? Okay. That's all I have for questions.
Cool. Anybody else? Okay, well, this is a public hearing. Would anybody from the public care to speak or comment? Sure.
I didn't know about this tonight, so,
Yeah.
I'm Rick Robach, 20 Highland Ave. The only question I have at the beginning, you mentioned on the 3 main events that they have, they usually use the property that you're putting this new building on for that function. Where is that function gonna happen now? So they're still gonna have that many people. I live there. I've been there for 32 years. Years in the past, 32 years ago, there was 5,000 people came. And my road was shut down, and we haven't had any problems at all in many years. It's been fine. But if you're taking away where they have these 3 major functions, and there's no more parking in that spot, those parking lots are gonna have to be where the tents are, because this is a special building. Where's all that gonna happen?
Do you want to speak to that again? Just how, it's all going to take place in the function hall now, right? Because you'll no longer be needing the function hall for the other religious ceremonies? Like yeah, please, come on up.
Just because that existing building is very small, and we've all seen the number of people that come at a particular
Yeah, but
time,
if you
they
live there,
can't fit in that building.
Yeah, but there's not much we can do about churches.
Thank you. So my name is Palachier, and I live on 1 Nicholas Terrace, Chelmsford. And I've attended that temple since I was very young. And it's one of the first temple in New England for Cambodians. And we're very proud of it as a community. And with this new addition, a new building on the site, it means tremendously to our community because there's nothing like it in town, even within the region. So this new building will not increase the number of people, the number of members that will join. And so we never had 5,000 people before because the lot would not be able to hold 5,000 people. So I think the most I've seen is about 300, and that's during New Year's time in April. And it's an event that we cherish as a Cambodian community because it's the only time that we can get together. And we share the celebration with the surrounding towns as well, with Lowell, with Chelmsford, with Dracut, with any members of the community. And they come from all over too, not just within the region. I mean, we have visitors from Maine as well, and from the surrounding states joining us, but I've never seen more than 300 people because that's the only capacity that we can hold. And sometimes we have the event outside where we have a procession, and but most of the events are held in the hall. But with this new building that we're going to build, it's only going to be for a place for meditation only, and it's mainly going to be for the monks who will preside over that new building. And like the gentleman before spoke about, it's also going to be a library for youngsters, the new generation, to learn about the religion. So I hope, being here for close to 35 years, I would be able to see this new addition to the site.
Thank you.
So I thank you for your support.
Any other public comment? Anybody like to speak to this? If not, any further comments from the board before we close the public hearing?
We really can't do much without engineering plans.
We need
Yeah.
We can't,
we need more department inputs.
Okay. Which ones were you thinking of in particular?
I think Katie, you mentioned she's still
80s.
working with engineering.
Okay.
Even with engineering, there's nothing we can do.
Just
about it.
continue to next meeting.
Yeah, we need that before we do a vote.
I wouldn't close the public until we get her input and stuff.
What do you anticipate?
I don't anticipate much. I heard from her yesterday, and she hadn't received the plans until yesterday, so she was looking them over. We are as far as stormwater, we are reducing the amount of on-site impervious. So, I would be happy waiting for 2 weeks. I'd be happy to have a condition of approval be that we meet all the conditions of engineering. I'm not concerned. It's
Okay.
totally up to you.
Well, we could do it either way.
If you're,
you still have another,
Yeah, I know, I see that.
if you're comfortable with conditioning approvals, you may want to consider that based upon what you've continued to the 28th, and do we have anything new?
No.
Okay.
So it may lighten up the agenda for the 28th.
Okay, very good. Some public.
George Zaharos, Princeton Street, North Chelmsford. The couple of conditions that I haven't heard answers to, and one is the parking situation. Have they, anything in writing that says that they've made deals with any of the
Yes, there is.
aforementioned?
There's at least one piece in the
There's
record.
one Dolan,
Yeah,
but the police department mentioned that if there's an event at Dolan's, what happens at that point? And I don't think that's been answered yet this evening.
They did say, I think, they're working on a couple of other things,
Right,
but
but that should be,
nothing's in writing.
that should
you're
be
right.
something in writing. We
Yeah.
did that with the one that was on Middlesex Road. We had to have something in writing for the file so that there was an agreement in place. I think Colin Spence's letter was pretty specific on what he was looking for to make sure that that is part of the condition and that there's agreements in place. Because otherwise, you're going to be fighting parking in that
Is there a
neighborhood.
way for the police department, or to have signs that say resident parking only, maybe even two in that?
they have lots of.
Yeah, they do.
You know,
They do lots
for-
of things up
To
there.
kind of protect the residents for the.
Well, it's not just it's just that they have a plan in place that there's something on record, because if it's not on record and they don't make a deal with these two other options, then what happens?
Yeah.
You're back to square one. So I think that should be something that it should be in the file as a condition.
Thanks.
Do we have anybody else?
The only thing I wanted to say is, we've had no issues with your temple. I think it's been great over the last, I can't remember last time there was an issue. I was just curious about when they do have these functions,
Yeah.
where are all those people gonna go if the spot they just said they used to go was where the building's gonna be?
Mhm.
Where are you gonna hold these functions?
Mhm.
That's all I'm asking, but believe me.
I agree.
it's great.
Okay.
I think it's great to see, they've been here 35 years, but, and, I think-
Okay, so what do you have on your list, Katie, for?
I have, Christina's letter and an additional parking agreement.
Okay,
and if we could have something showing where they were gonna put their tent up, or where their plans for their events.
Any outdoor events.
Is there-
The last one we did, where they
signage?
did take and
Is
give
that
us
zone, or is that-
a location where they were gonna
it's
put
getting
it.
too specific, let the
I
police
think that
department
was more,
figure it out.
the other location, because they didn't have any place to congregate at all
Yeah.
in the building. So that was their function hall.
But if you can throw something together, neighbors asked, I don't think it's unreasonable.
Put a narrative together.
Okay,
I don't think we should vote on this tonight, I think we should.
now we can certainly, well, it looks like we
Should
got
wait
some
for this.
material coming in 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
You want a motion to continue?
Yeah, that sounds
I'll give
like
you a
it makes
motion to
sense.
continue.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you in 2 weeks?
Very much.
Okay, last one up is off Tobin Ave. It's a definitive subdivision. Do we have anybody here for the, there we are.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Attorney William Harvey on behalf of SJC Development regarding the Tobin Ave subdivision plan. Requesting a brief continuance for 2 weeks
No
until your
problem.
next hearing.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
no problem.
The same thing, no testimony?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Does somebody want to move the continuance?
Move to continue without testimony for 2
Yep.
weeks.
Sounds good. Is that okay by you?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Second, yeah,
Second. In favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Also, just to give you the heads up, Ready Way was paved today. So
Okay.
got the
Hey,
road in.
hey, great.
Finally.
Good show.
It's been raining forever, so it's taking
Yeah,
forever.
right. At least you got it on before it froze.
Oh, shit.
Yep.
Can you just have them read the ad and then make the motion to continue, just to open the hearing?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. You want to read the, 'cause
Yep.
believe me, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, the Chelmsford Planning Board will conduct a public hearing on Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, at 7 PM at the town offices located at 50 Billerica Road, Chelmsford, Mass., to consider the application of SGC Development LLC for a definitive subdivision located off Tobin Avenue. The applicant requests definitive subdivision approval and applicable waivers under subdivision control law and the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land in the town of Chelmsford in the Article 14 Aquifine Protection District Special Permit.
It's not testimony.
The project proposes to create 4 new lots that will each contain a 2-family dwelling with frontage via a new roadway. The site is located in the RC Residential Zoning District. The site is approximately 3.29 acres, as shown on the Assessor's Map 20, Block 50, in Lot 4. A copy of the proposal is available in the Planning Board office located at Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, Chelmsford, Mass., and may be viewed Monday through Friday between 9 and 4. All interested parties are invited to comment in writing or may present any relevant information for the board's consideration at the public hearing November 14, 2018. Per order, Mike Raisback.
Very good. Okay, so that's read into the record, and we're officially underway.
Opened and continued. Opened and continued.
Opened and continued. Very good. All right. That's the end of the heavy part. Any,
14.
yeah, any committee reports or anything that should be brought to the attention of the board?
Motion to adjourn?
So one thing I just, boy, you're quicker than I am.
You are, good.
Yeah, it's about time to put together the master plan committee for the next round. Now, we're not going to pick them tonight, but those of you who think you might get a kick out of being involved, and of course,
Definitely.
just let me know, and we'll start, I'll talk to you, Evan, and we'll start talking about what that committee would look like. But I'm imagining it's going to be at least a couple of planning board members, a couple of members at large from the town, and we probably want to look at some representation from some of the other key town boards.
I think we need to give it some more thought. I mean, if you're truly gonna view it as an update.
Yep, I think that's.
It could be a committee of the planning board, and you just bring in
Okay,
stakeholders as necessary.
that's another way to do it, and if we're going to keep it to that,
Unless you're
that's
gonna
pretty
identify
efficient.
specific areas that you are revisiting. If it's trends continued, then I'm not sure it warrants
Okay,
revisiting or reopening issues,
okay.
unless you identify specific issues or
And there may,
areas of
and there may be
town.
one or two that we want to identify
Yeah.
that way, and maybe have
Right.
specialized
Right.
committees look at them.
Exactly.
Okay,
You have a lady back
Anyway.
there.
yeah.
Mike, you got a lady back there putting her hand up with the red.
Oh, hello.
Hi. I was just was going back to your comment on the master plan. If it is more than an update, or an
Yeah.
upgrade, and you do require or request
Yeah.
that there be two members from the public,
Yeah.
how would the public know to apply for that position?
It would get posted on the town site. That's the way we typically do these things.
So do you folks update, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you can always tune into the meetings.
Yeah.
We're a little ways away from that
Yeah.
right now.
Is this the only venue in which you figure out how that?
Yes, this is it.
This is it, okay. All right, sure, thank you.
Okay. So we need to have that discussion anyway, and I'm going to consider it kicked off tonight. Do we have any kind of a summary of where we stand on the various items in the master plan? I know that at various times we did.
Been a couple years. My suggestion is just let it go. Most of the departments or committees that were responsible and
Yeah, take it.
were interested in providing yearly updates were doing so.
Yeah.
There were many that
That never
not.
did.
That
Yeah.
never reported.
You know, that may be a lessons learned.
Yep.
Where the update isn't as critical on implementation. Maybe
Okay.
it's just, you know, it just may be an entirely different document. And I'll give you an example, like the facilities section.
Yeah.
It had little or no use.
Right. I mean,
It wasn't used.
Right.
So
And the
moving forward, I'm
facilities
not
now,
sure
yeah.
we need a facilities section.
Probably don't.
So
Well,
there's other examples
yeah.
like that.
Okay, well, I'm going to start looking at this. Everybody pull out your copy of the master plan, and we'll discuss it the next meeting, time permitting.
I'll continue to give it some thought as well.
Okay, thanks.
So do we expect to have a fairly light agenda? at the
Well,
next
we've
meeting?
already pushed 2 items into
Continued
it.
4 items from this agenda to that agenda.
Well, then
the
we
same
probably
agenda.
don't.
I wouldn't say it's light, but
Yeah,
you should be able to move through those items fairly
yeah. A
timely.
lot of those are pretty fast. They're conclusions.
I mean, maybe a suggestion is that members bring their ideas
Yeah.
on the master plan, whether it's an update, whether there are certain areas that should be reopened for consideration, new areas to introduce into the master plan.
Sir, Mike, did you
Yeah.
work on the original master plan?
No, I didn't. Hey, somebody in the back there waving his hand. I wonder what he's talking about. Yeah, George was on it.
Might be worth to have original, because I know Ed's been.
What do you think, George?
So, George Zaharoulis, Princeton Street, so.
You know where you live?
I think, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, is that I think you can easily update some quick sections, like facilities, you can
Yeah.
upgrade that. You know, now that we have a DPW, Richardson Road is empty, you know, we have a new fire station. Because like the fire station was identified at the time,
Yeah.
when we did the master plan,
Yeah.
it was center station, and we identified upgrade. So I think that's a quick section. I think those things are quick hits. And then it's just a matter of figuring out if there's some areas that the planning board should look at. The committee that we had was, I think it was a 9-member committee.
It was.
There was 2 planning board members, 1 selectman, 1 Concom, 1 from historic, 1 town meeting representative, 1 member at large, and 1 ZBA member, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of sections just in upgrading, because there was a lot of, it's 20 months worth of effort into that. And
Yeah.
to take out a section, I don't think is a good idea. I think it's good to leave it in there. And some of them just can be quick hits, and you know, it's, you know, identifying any facilities that we're light on. I know that the school department has identified that, you know, maybe a new school somewhere in the future. That's something that can be put in there, that they've gone ahead and they've applied through the SBA for whatever they've applied for. You know, so quick things. I mean, some of the zoning changes that we made out in 129 area, and seeing how that's going to grow, maybe a note in there that to see how that goes. The implementation section may be something that you do modify greatly, because some of it was actually, you know, there's quite a bit that was implemented.
Yeah.
I would say there's probably 30% that wasn't even bothered with, and may not have been bothered with. And there's some things in there that this board actually looked at and determined that we didn't want to move forward with it. So that can be a footnote in there that the planning board looked at it in 2012 or 2013 and decided not to move forward with it. So I think it's more of an update than anything else. Maybe a committee member, a couple planning board members one or two people at large and maybe a selectman and
Well, that's,
and hit it.
my gut feel right now says an update is probably the appropriate way to go, but we'll discuss that further.
Good luck.
George,
Thank you, George.
the last master plan was an incredible compilation of information and recommendations. What did you start with? Did you have an older version that?
There was an
that was
older
your-
version, but it wasn't really as
wa-
detailed. I
Was it
mean,
useful as a starting point? I mean, was it
yeah, they're all
actually used as a starting point?
anything we got our hands on was useful. You know, I mean, it definitely was useful. This one here is with Evan and NEMCOG. NEMCOG has done several master plans for several communities. You know, so you know, with that input, it really worked well. And between Evan and NEMCOG, they put some things together. Then it was sent out to the members of the board. We had homework. We had to go through it, read it, submit back our comments, and then the comments were brought to the meeting, and we discussed those comments. It was a well-oiled machine, and I give Jimmy Lane a lot of credit because he chaired that committee, and you know, he kept us on track. Before we closed any meeting, we had our homework. We had our agenda for next meeting, so we knew what we were going to address. So I think that's key. And I think Jimmy worked with Evan on that to make sure that we definitely had our marching orders. So and we had good response. I would say that we had, you know, if there was 9 members and not everybody submitted comments at the time, you know, because they were busy or whatever, but you know, 7 out of 9 submitted comments, and I found it to be a great help. There was a gentleman on the committee, Peter Robeson. I don't know if you remember him. He was a citizen at large, not involved in any committee, one of the first committees. He brought a different perspective to it because we were all thinking of the committees we were on or the groups that we were on. He brought an outside look at it, and I thought that was very, very valuable. So, you know, and he struggled at the time. He had some things he was going through, but he did a great job. So it was
Okay.
so.
Well, yeah, I'm inclined to think that however big this committee is and the size is going to vary a bit depending on what we choose for scope. Having at least one total outsider involved with it's probably a very good idea for exactly the reasons you bring up.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think it worked well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to point out also that one of the things, one of the approaches with the last master plan was that it recommended other plans to be developed.
Right. Several of which were.
So a number of other committees were formed that were specialized topic committees that then went forward and did the research and the analysis and recommendations in specific areas. So the master plan didn't have to be all-encompassing in its own content.
Well, that's kind of what I suggest here
And I
for,
think that was really beneficial because you could get other energy and other expertise in areas that were needed.
we can spread it around as we need to.
Yeah, it spread it around.
Okay. Motion? Yeah, you're falling down on the job.
So you were all set with your chicken thing and everything else?
Let me just report that I have talked to Sue Rosa.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk again next week. She's off at a conference, but I've had some communication with her. And what we are moving toward is the notion, which I think might have been good to recognize earlier in the game. This is really a Board of Health issue, not a zoning issue, or shouldn't be. It is a zoning issue because of the way our zoning law is put together, but it shouldn't necessarily be so much of one. So I'm going to talk to her next week when she gets back. We've agreed to sit down, and we'll probably have one of the animal control guys too, and we'll see if we can roll that ball forward a little bit. Route 40 continues to actually function, and we've got 2 more meetings scheduled. In November. Wow. So we're not, in fact, the next one's next Tuesday? Yep. And then the following Thursday, I believe. So we're busy. We've heard a lot from a lot of people.
I requested a new copy of the assessor's database
Yep.
to include the build date such that I can include historical preservation analysis in that data.
Good.
So I should be able to come up with some data here in the next month or so.
Very good.
Data analysis.
Anybody else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There you
Favor?
go.
Aye. Thank you.